So the first thing that they would do is they set up a fraudulent web page, maybe a web page that looks like a Microsoft web page. And then they send a phishing attack, a mass phishing attack, to lots and lots of targets, just hoping that somebody will be fooled, right? And some people will be fooled. When you send tens of thousands or maybe even millions of phishing emails, you're going to get some people who will be fooled, right? So the phishing attack is successful. Let's imagine, in this case, that the phishing attack was successful with a temporary summer intern, Bill. Bill, the temporary summer intern, got fooled and gave away his credentials. Now, Bill is a low-value target. Bill doesn't have anything of interest in his email. Bill doesn't have access to anything that's critical. The attacker can't do much with Bill. But if they can just sit and for a little while and look at Bill's email, right? The attacker looks through Bill's email and he discovers, oh, look, Bill corresponds with Susan, the accounting manager. Well, then maybe I can use a fake email from Bill to Susan to get her to do something, right? So we'll send a phishing email to Susan, and because the email came from Bill, Susan is not on guard. Susan is not really looking out for danger from Bill. And so then Susan's email account gets penetrated.
And Mitch,
go ahead.
Chime in. Something that we're seeing more and more about, and you talked about it briefly on the slide before, is people holding position. And so Bill could be compromised, and that threat actor that's gotten access to his account sits back and watches the way that Bill talks, the way he interacts with people. Historically, you've been able to say, okay, this email sounds weird. This isn't the way that Bill usually communicates. Bill doesn't generally ask for these type of things, and it makes it easy to identify that this isn't Bill. But we're seeing it more and more that they're sitting back, they're watching, they're learning the way that Bill talks, the way his formality or informality, and then interacts with Susan in a way that sounds exactly like Bill, and they're becoming very slick at it. So I
yes, indeed,
just thought to point that out.
And in fact, that is this step here, the monitoring step. They can do monitoring with Bill, but then they'll also do monitoring with Susan, right? And it could be a long time. They could sit and watch Bill and watch Susan for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, right? To gain the information that they need. So yes, absolutely. The threat actors will sit and observe so that they can effectively impersonate either Bill or Susan, or someone who corresponds with Bill or Susan, right? So in this example, right, you know, they watched Susan's email for 2 months, and they learned what the billing cycles were. They learned who the vendors that she deals with are. In fact, they're on the lookout for a specific vendor who maybe will send an invoice that they want to be paid. And the attacker will intercept that email and make it not arrive in Susan's email box. And then what they'll do is they'll send a fake email to Susan from that vendor that looks just like the vendor, you know, and like the person that she normally deals with, has the correct signature block, maybe refers to the same joke that they talked about previously, and then tell Susan, we've changed our bank account number. We need you to pay this invoice to this new bank account number going forward. Thank you very much, right? And then, you know, Susan's busy and she's corresponded with that vendor before and she knows them and it looks legitimate. And so she just assumes it's normal and she does what the threat actor asks. And she wires money to the threat actor's bank account instead of to the vendor's account, right? And the vendor won't know. All the vendor will know is 30 days or 60 days from now, when the invoice remains unpaid, they'll contact Susan and say, Susan, hey, why isn't this invoice paid? And they'll say, well, I paid that a long time ago. And that's when the fraud will be discovered. And there could have been multiples by that time. Susan could have been wiring money to lots of different people before they discover the problem. So this is all all very high level and theoretical. I think it explains how things happen. But let's, just remind you, that what's going to happen is there's going to be a phishing attack, then there'll be lateral movement, and then it can result in all kinds of things like wire fraud.
I know you're going to get into some examples, but I want to throw one out here real quick. We had a prospect that was looking to move to us to provide services, and this whole time their email had been compromised. The prospect hadn't even signed yet to become a client, but we had sent them the proposal, emailed it over, so therefore it was in their email. Their email was compromised. The person sitting there monitoring intercepted that, turned our proposal into an invoice, and sent it back to them for prepayment for onboarding. And prospect reached out to us and was like, "This seems like a very weird practice. Why are you trying to bill me before we ever signed the document?" And I was like, "Oh, that is not us. We've got a bigger problem on our hands." So just one quick high level example of how this can happen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll give you another example that I think is pertinent. We used the fake example of a person named Bill who's a temporary summer intern, and that seems very innocuous. But we also have a client, and they have many locations, and the maintenance manager at one of their locations received an email that he thought was from the local fire department. Right. So it's very legitimate seeming. So, hey, you need to comply with this thing, click on this link, go to this website, fill out this information. And he did. Right. Well, he turned out to be one of those low potential value targets. Now, the Chinese hackers who are trying to get into infrastructure might find him to be a very high value target. But in this particular case, the threat actors didn't think that the maintenance manager in this location was a high value target. But they were able to watch his email and then launch attacks on other people in the organization. And they were able to identify and find some high value targets. So just about anyone can be the entry point that will lead to a high value target, even if they themselves are seemingly a low value target.
Yeah.
You have any other examples you want to share, Brian?
I was actually just going to throw out another one. I belong to a peer group, and the facilitator of the peer group, their personal email got compromised, and it was the email they just used to facilitate their group. So there's no financial gain that person can make in their email specifically. But what they could do is they targeted me because I was in her contacts to say, "Hey, Brian, I know we talked about this potential prospect for you. Here's a link to their RFP." And the email that came through was going to prompt me to put in my Microsoft credentials so that I could download the RFP. At the end of the day, they had realized, hey, I can't make any progress with this person, but I've got all these people that are in their contact records that I can go after them and see if they're going to be a good target. So a lot of people make the comment, well, worst case, someone gets access to my email. I don't have a lot of proprietary information in there. I don't have anything of value. But you have all the people that you communicate with each and every day, and those people have a lot of value and potential downsides if their email gets compromised.
Yeah, I'll throw out one last one that you may not even know about, Brian, because it happened within the last hour. One of our clients had a situation just within the last hour where someone made a successful phishing attack against them, but they did not do the sit and wait. They immediately started trying for lateral movement, started doing blast emails to everyone in this person's mailbox. And I was one of the people who got that email, and several other people here at Aldridge got that email. So we were able to detect it very quickly and immediately alert our team and alert the client saying, you've had a compromise. We've got to jump on this right away. So just within the last hour, right, we've witnessed this happen to one of our clients.
Yeah.